Hello again, friends. I'm so glad that you're back with me and you're continuing to do this journey with me of how to live a victorious life. How can you have a life of peace and joy and steadfastness no matter what's going on around you? How can you be unshakable by circumstances and by people? And that's what we're talking about. If you haven't gotten a chance to listen to my first 5 videos, you want to do that. Videos 1 through 3 talk about how we should have the right perspective, right? Both for here on earth and also for our life eternal. And then videos 4 and 5 talk about what and who are our enemies that seek to steal our victory. And we talked about our enemies being Satan, sin, death, and the corruption of spirit. Now, if we in and of our own strength had the power and the might to defeat those enemies by ourselves, we would live in a wonderful world, right? We would live in a world that didn't have crime. There would be no politics, no divorce, no broken relationships. It would be, I don't know, heaven? Ah! But the sad news is we are not able to defeat our enemies in and of ourselves. We just don't have the power to do it. I want to talk to you about a passage in Psalm 44 today, and it has a background of a story. Now, we all know the story about David and Goliath, but this story happened way before David was born, but it happened to his people, the Israelites. Now, when the Israelites came out of Egypt, they were a bunch of slaves. They were starving, they were feeble, they didn't really have any weapons, no military experience, nothing. And after wandering in the wilderness, their children were told by God to go into the land of Canaan and defeat the land of Canaan and occupy the land. So we're talking about a bunch of children of slaves who never have fought, any real mighty wars. They don't have the latest weaponry. They don't have horses or chariots. They're a bunch of puny Davids. They're told by God to go into the land of Canaan. The land of Canaan has fortified cities with really tall walls and walls sometimes that were several feet thick. They had the latest weaponry, that each city had a fortified army, and to make matters worse, there were men in the land who were 10 to 12 feet tall. They were called giants. So literally, this story is a bunch of puny Davids going up against a bunch of Goliaths. Let's read what happens in Psalm 44, verses 1 through 8. O God, we have heard it with our own ears. Our ancestors have told us of all you did in their day, in the days long ago. You drove out the pagan nations by your power and gave all the land to our ancestors. You crushed the enemies and set our ancestors free. They did not conquer the land with their swords. It was not their own strong arm that gave them victory. It was your right hand and strong arm and the blinding light from your face that helped them, for you loved them. You are my King and my God. You command victories over Israel. Only by your power can we push back our enemies. Only in your name can we trample our foes. I do not trust in my bow. I do not count on my sword to save me. You are the one who gives us victory over our enemies. You disgrace those who hate us. O God, we give glory to you all day long and constantly praise your name. I love this passage because it gives me hope and relief. I don't have to do it. David gives us 3 really important truths in this passage, and the first one is in verse 3. The first truth is, we never bring about the victory. David says, it wasn't our sword, it wasn't our bow that conquered the land. It was your strong arm and right hand, O God. And that is such a wonderful truth. God is the one who is here and ready at our side to help us and bring us the victory. Truth number 2 is in verse 4. God alone commands the victory. Now, in this second point, we notice that it's God himself that does the victory. He himself pushes back the troops. He himself tramples the enemy. It's not our strength. It's not our brains. It's not our might. It's not our power. It's not, no matter how hard we try, we just have to try harder. It's God himself that commands the victory. And point number 3 is in verse 6. We must not trust in our own efforts. Now, this is where I get stuck the most because I don't know about you, but when things are swirling around me and the world is getting crazy and I have, some upset in my life, my first thought is, how can I fix this? How can I make this right? And I try to figure out what I need to do to give myself back the peace and the joy that I've lost. And I work really hard to maybe manipulate the situation or make somebody else see my point. And sometimes that ends in arguments and it doesn't end in restoration, right? It just ends in more upset, more loss of peace, more loss of joy. And I just want to encourage you, friend, are you in a place that you're feeling defeated? Are you in a place that you feel like you are just not having any victory in this situation or this sin? Do you feel like you're bound by chains? Do you feel like no matter how hard you try, you just can't get along with that person, or you just can't fix your finances, or you just can't make your boss happy? These are the kinds of situations that God wants to give us victory in. And when I say victory, I want to make sure I'm very clear. God never promises to take our problem away. In video 3, we talked about the fact that our pain has a purpose. Our pain on earth prepares us for eternity. But God wants to give us victory in the fact that that problem doesn't have to rule our hearts. It doesn't have to keep us awake at night. It doesn't have to cause us anxiety and worry. We can walk through that problem and still have joy and peace. That's what God wants to bring you. I can't help but wonder if when David was writing this song, he was thinking back of his battle with Goliath. And I can't help but imagine that he remembered how puny and small and insignificant he felt, and how really big and gigantic and monumental Goliath looked. Goliath looked like he was insurmountable, undefeatable, and yet, because David decided and chose to rely on God, God gave David the victory. Let's read the last few verses again, but this time let's personalize them. You are my King and my God. You command victories for me. Only by your power can I push back my enemies. Only in your name can I trample my foes. I do not trust in my bow. I do not count on my sword to save me. You are the one who gives me victory over my enemies. And here is the freedom, friends. It truly is relief and freedom. God doesn't ask you to win the battle. God asks you to join with him and watch him go into battle with you and for you. And he will bring you the victory. Thanks for watching, and join me next time when we talk about, can you handle the truth? Have a great day.